Hi, welcome to Restore 2023. Today we're reading Mark's Gospel, chapter 9. The transfiguration of Jesus and the appearance of Elijah and Moses alongside him is one of the most significant events of his ministry and gives us a clear glimpse of his divine nature. In fact, the writer to the Hebrews is probably referring to it directly when he describes Jesus as the radiance of the glory of God and the exact imprint of his nature. Moses' shining face may have reflected God's glory, but Jesus actually radiates the light of God. And he fulfills the law, represented by Moses, and the prophets epitomized by Elijah. The early church fathers tell us that Mark wrote his gospel at the direction of Peter. So now we almost feel Peter's embarrassment as he describes his own faux pas by his offer to build memorial booths. And we also recognise it in his excuse that what he said was spoken to mask the terror they all felt at the time. It's extraordinary then that the voice from the cloud was solely for their benefit. It's almost as if God was saying, "Shh, stop talking. This is my son. Listen to him." And one of the first things Jesus did say to them afterwards was to keep their mouths shut until he'd risen from the dead. After this event, the group passed through Galilee until they arrived at Capernaum. And all we know about this journey is that once again Jesus foretold his death and his resurrection, something the disciples didn't understand and were afraid to talk to him about. But they did have some lively arguments among themselves. Now perhaps I'm letting my imagination run away with me, but it's easy to see how they could have had argued about who was greatest among them. After all, Peter, James and John had been whisked away on a private mission to Mount Hermon, and they'd been sworn to secrecy about it. At the same time, the others had failed miserably to help a desperate father and his son, apparently because their prayer life was lacking and their faith inadequate. This mixture of secrets and failures and embarrassment obviously led to the muffled arguments they had on the way. Arguments they were ashamed of when Jesus asked what they had been talking about. But now they're settled and relaxed for a while in Capernaum, so Jesus picks up on their disagreements and instructs them about his kingdom values. For instance, if anyone wants to be first among them, he must be last of all and the servant of all. And again, just because they're his special group of students, they shouldn't imagine that they are better than others, because from God's point of view, anyone who is not against them is for them. And nor should they disregard the little ones who believe in him. Little ones like the child who's just lifted up in their midst, because they are so valuable to God that the very severest of punishments waits for anyone who cripples their faith. Now, although he doesn't say it in so many words, we guess from verse 31 that Jesus' imminent crucifixion is at the forefront of his mind, a death, remember, which is intended to deal with sin. So these apostles who are called out to be his heralds and standard bearers must be strict with themselves to keep themselves from all sin, because holiness is the hallmark of the kingdom. It's essential that they of all people have salt in themselves and are at peace with one another.